I'm Malika Andrews, and today, LeBron James, he is on the precipice of making history. I mean, look behind me. That's truly remarkable. 20 years of greatness. He is 36 points away from passing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and becoming the NBA's all-time points leader. And he could do it tonight against Oklahoma City. I am joined by Zach Lowe, Brian Windhorst, Tristan Thompson, and the one and only Chiney Ogwumike. Brian, you know LeBron incredibly well. What are the Lakers doing? How are they setting him up for tonight? What should we expect?
I think he's going for it tonight. Now, you can't control whether you make the baskets. You can't control how they defend you. I say the Lakers' game plan tonight is to get LeBron active early, try to get up 20 points in the first half, get it done tonight.
I think it happens tonight. Would I like for it to happen? No. I'd rather against Milwaukee because Kareem got drafted there. It looks good. I wouldn't mind a hook shot, like Zach said. I would want it to be Thursday, but I think it's tonight.
There's some nice symmetry if it happened against Milwaukee on Thursday, but it feels like it's set up for it to happen tonight. OKC's coming off there the second night of a back-to-back. LeBron seems to be focused. Zach, what do you think?
I think we're trying to speak it into existence a little bit. We want it to happen tonight. I want it to happen tonight for the simple reason of if he breaks it and he needs 36, that makes it more likely that it's like a dramatic late game basket. If he gets 30 tonight and he needs 7, it's like, it's almost a little bit of a letdown, although this could never really be a letdown. And yes, it's not as poetic as Milwaukee, Kareem's first team. He did win his first title against the Oklahoma City Thunder when he was with Miami. Maybe there's a little poetry there. I'm trying to speak it into existence.
How many points away was Kareem? 22, I think, when he came in.
And I also hope it's tonight for anyone out there that is paying $69,000 for a ticket, because that's a big chunk of change to see a little bit of history. And obviously, like, we're going to the game, so, like, let's do it tonight. Let's do it tonight.
Girl, I'm going to the game Thursday.
I know,
I'm going
same
to the
here.
game next week. Take a look at your screen here. 197 games with 36 points or more. So that's 14% of LeBron James' career games. We talked about this, Brian. It felt like when he was 50 points away, even when he was 70 points away, nothing felt impossible. It felt like you had to tune in every single night because LeBron James, he is capable of that. 36 points is absolutely not out of reach.
Here's the thing. The NBA is honoring LeBron for this accomplishment at the All-Star break, which meant that at some point they looked at it and said, oh, he's probably going to get it around the All-Star break. I know that when all really, really smart people were computing this at the start of the season, they were saying it's probably like early March, and then like maybe late February. We are in the first days of February, and he's doing it at age 38 on a very, very high level. So I would just say, if you're going to underestimate LeBron, especially in this season, you're probably going to get disappointed.
Well, this is a huge week in the NBA because not only is LeBron chasing the all-time scoring record, not only that, but we are actually within 48 hours of the NBA trade deadline. And for the latest, we're going to bring in our ESPN senior insider, Adrian Wojnarowski. Woj, so far, the biggest deal that we've seen is Kyrie Irving headed to the Mavericks. He is joining them today. We expect to hear from Kyrie Irving later. But now, where do things stand with Brooklyn?
Malika, Brooklyn and Kevin Durant, there's been a lot of conversation this week, certainly since the Kyrie Irving trade, about what this roster is going to look like, how they can reshape this team around Kevin Durant, and whether this truly can be a championship contender. And I think there's a lot of hard conversations going on with the Nets, with Kevin Durant. The Nets have been active in trade talks, I think, all over the league, trying to see how they can continue to improve this roster. They have two second rounds and another first round pick from Dallas in the Irving trade to work with in talks. A lot of wing players certainly that might be of interest around the league. But I think, as teams canvass Brooklyn, and I think there's been no shortage of calls to the Nets about whether they would have interest in engaging on Kevin Durant, that they've been told so far, we have no intention of trading Durant. I think Durant has been told that by the organization. But listen, they went through this together last summer when Kevin Durant had questions, issues, concerns about the Nets' ability to put together a championship contender and his desire to still be there. I think those conversations are ongoing now. Again, this is an organization that wants to keep building around Kevin Durant, wants to win with him, has him under contract for multiple years, and at this point wants to try to find some deals in the marketplace that make this team better.
Very interesting. So previously, Woj, Kevin Durant had potentially been interested in a union with the Phoenix Suns. What's the latest there?
You know, Phoenix has a new owner, Matt Ishbia, who just was approved by the Board of Governors yesterday and is fully in charge in Phoenix and plans to be aggressive and trying to win with that organization. Obviously, they have a very good team that wants to be a championship team. Durant had interest in the Suns last summer. That was certainly one of the teams at the very top of his list. And of course, the challenge is to do a trade to a place like Phoenix or anywhere else. Is there enough left over on a roster that you're entering a situation where it's championship level? I'm told that the Suns, like a number of other teams, had communication with Brooklyn, but so far the Nets are telling people we intend to keep Kevin Durant. We intend to try to do other deals to improve our roster. Trade deadline is Thursday at 3 p.m. We know all of this can be extremely fluid.
Absolutely. Woj, thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us here on NBA Today. I want to bring it back to our panel here because Woj just told us so much. Brian, help me peel back this onion on what's the most important.
That was a record scratch. That was a record scratch. And this kind of started in the league yesterday. You started feeling that teams were pulling back. Not every team, because not every team would be in the market, but teams that were calling with the Nets started pulling back, saying, wait a minute. We're not going to help the Nets if we potentially could get Durant. I think this especially applies to a team like Toronto, who would be a Durant bidder if he became to the market. It would especially be a team like Phoenix. And even the thing about it is Durant has not said a word. He was at the game last night. Our Nick Friedel met him, and he said no comment, which is fine. He doesn't have to talk to the media when he's not playing. The league right now, the league and the top agents are waiting for clarity from Durant. One of the biggest questions that is happening in the last 3 days, what do you think Kevin's doing? What do you think Kevin's feeling? What do you think Kevin's feeling? There isn't a clarity. And now, as it drags on and on, without clarity, we're starting to see some gaps filled in. So I would say that the league right now, especially the teams like Phoenix, like Toronto, other teams like that, probably have the brakes applied as they wait to see what's about to happen in the next 48 hours.
Kevin Durant might still be the best player in the NBA. The Nets have a pretty good team around him. I have the depth chart right here. They have a lot of good players. A lot of good players around Kevin Durant. They have years on his contract, his leverage, as they did over the summer when they told him, we're not trading you. No matter what you want, we're not doing it. All that is true. The two phrases that Woj used in that interview that set off the alarm bells in me, one was hard conversations.
Yeah.
Hard conversations, I don't like having hard conversations in my own life. Hard conversations generally don't go well. And extremely fluid. 48 hours is a long, long time in the NBA. All of these teams who prepared to trade for Kevin Durant over the summer know what the packages were, know what they could have offered, know what they'd be prepared to offer today. And as you said, Toronto, on the one hand, could be a Durant suitor, theoretically, but on the other hand, has taken a lot of calls on OG Anunoby. A lot of the OG Anunoby teams would also just be like, OG Anunoby, forget you, we want Kevin Durant. So this looms as a domino, and yes, I agree with Woj. They don't want to trade him. They want to rebuild around him. They have a lot of good players. They're extremely active trying to get even better players, consolidate some of their current players. But those phrases, I'm with you. That's a record scratch. That's an alarm bell. That's a buckle up. For 48 hours.
Absolutely. And I think one thing to remember with Kevin Durant, hard conversations, things being fluid, at the end of the day, the game is very simple for him. And if he's not in an environment where things are simplified, I think that that's what will dictate where he goes and how he is perceived. Meaning, I think he's probably learned a lot from his stops along the way on what is tolerable at this point and what is not tolerable. So again, the next 48 hours are going to be super interesting.
Well, and the other thing that we talked about time and time again when he made the trade request over the summer and that Woj brought up again is ultimately where Kevin Durant goes huge if, because again, right now the Nets are not, Woj is reporting, not yet engaging in these conversations, but everything is fluid. What's the team that's left? Because when we talked about that potential trade that could happen, it would be seismic. It would be picks. It would be pick swaps. It would be players. It would be unlike things that we have seen in the past. And so who is left that Kevin Durant still wants to play with? And I expect that that's going to be another domino that they would have to consider.
Seismic is a really good word.
Seismic. We're going to be hearing that a lot, I feel like. Well, speaking of the trade deadline, as we approach the trade deadline, more and more names get floated, including Chris Paul. And he weighed in on his name being in trade rumors. Do not miss that. We're also going to talk a little bit more about the Suns in general. And then Kevin Durant. I mean, he's still very much in Brooklyn, but if, and it's a big if at this point, he does ask for a trade where makes sense. So our front office insider, Bobby Marks, he is joining us with the answers. Bobby. And in just a matter of hours, LeBron and the Lakers, they take on the Thunder. Is tonight the night for history?
That's a new one. I like it.
Irving deal. The Nets, they were a little shorthanded last night against the Clippers, but there was a bright spot for Brooklyn. Cam Thomas, he's on fire. He scored a career-high 47 points. He went 7 for 11 from 3. The Nets, they did have an 8-point lead with 6 minutes to go, but then LA ended the game on a 15-3 run to seal a 124-116 win. But this young man, at 21 years and 116 days old, Cam Thomas, he became the second youngest player with consecutive 40-point games in NBA history, only behind LeBron James. But take a listen to what Thomas said after the game regarding the company that he joined.
Cam, saw a stat tonight that you and LeBron are the two youngest players to ever score back-to-back 44-point games. Just any reaction to that?
Bro? I mean, that's a great company. I'm glad to have my name mentioned with that guy. Even though I'm a Kobe guy, so if you say Kobe, I've been more, behaving on. No, I'm kidding. But it's still, great company. LeBron, he's about to break the all-time scoring record, I think, in like 2 games or 1 game, whatever he's about to do. So, I'm just glad to have my name mentioned with him, this young. So hopefully I can keep it going and keep having my name mentioned with those guys.
I mean, the Nets, they have to be excited about what Thomas has shown them, especially since Kyrie asked out of Brooklyn. But the feeling around the league right now is the current roster isn't necessarily the roster that they're going to finish the season with. So to break down all of the possibilities that could unfold this week, we welcome in our ESPN front office guru, our insider, Bobby Marks. So, Bobby, Woj reported earlier that the Nets and Kevin Durant, they're having ongoing hard conversations about the direction of the franchise, but they're not planning to necessarily trade him before Thursday's deadline, at least as of right now. But things can change. Things are fluid. So if things go nuclear and Kevin Durant asks for a trade over the next 72 hours, what are some of the potential destinations?
Yeah, Malik, it's like deja vu again, right? It's like late June, early July when we were talking about Kevin Durant. And I think when you look at the board, we could talk about Boston and New Orleans and teams like that. For me, it's really about Phoenix, of course. I mean, they have, when you look at all their young players. So if I'm Brooklyn, I'm certainly looking at a player like certainly Mikal Bridges. Certainly you could put Jay Crowder in there for trade purposes. Cam Johnson is another player. I mean, you just kind of add the salary up, put Dario Saric in there just from trade purposes. Remember, they have all their draft picks. So you can put it a 2023, you can put a 2025, you could put a 2027, a 29, you could do pick swaps. And then when you look at it from Brooklyn's perspective with Durant, that works. But here's the question. When you're looking at it, and Woj said it, how much do you want to gut of your roster? Bridges, Johnson, Crowder is certainly not playing. Saric, all your draft picks for a player like Kevin Durant, and would that trade be there maybe in the offseason for them? So that's the big question. But from my perspective, Phoenix has all the assets for a Durant trade if it ever came about.
And we know that Matt Ishbia wants to come in and really take hold of this organization and the direction it's going. What do you think of this trade, Jalen?
I think that if you're the Nets, you do not trade Kevin Durant. I came through this door and I said this before. He's one of the best players in the league. Why would you trade him when he got multiple years still left on his contract? And so we can put all of those trade scenarios up there you want. If I'm the Nets, unless you're calling me with the player that was in this year's All-Star game, I'm not talking about like a developing player. I'm not talking about no picks. Other than that, I ain't moving KD.
And Kevin Durant, by the way, is incredibly difficult to move, as we saw over the summer.
Seismic.
All right, you don't like that. You don't like trading KD in general, and I understand that.
Yes.
But can we let Bobby? Let's see another one. Maybe if you like, maybe if you like one a little bit better, Bobby. What you got?
Come on, Bobby.
Well, I mean, here's Portland for you, and this is more of a Damian Lillard fits the type timeline here, and I'm just looking at it from all their young players, whether it's Anthony Simons, certainly Shaedon Sharpe, who is who's going to be in the rookie game here, and when you keep on adding, let's just add up the salaries. Let's put Gary Payton in there just to make the money work, and then when you look at it from Kevin Durant, now here's the problem for a team like Portland. They owe a first-round pick to Chicago for the next 6 years. It's protected. You basically would have to lift the protection off that in order to trade a 2025 first year. So you don't have the draft assets right now. And I think from Brooklyn's perspective, this is basically blowing it up and really just starting young with your two players in Simons and Sharpe here. So it's hard, Malika, when you see from Brooklyn trading a top 4 or 5 player for players that basically it's going to be a reboot.
You like it any more, Vince?
No, it's just, it's okay.
But this has to be what the Nets are going through in this moment.
Right, for sure.
Looking at this saying,
I can't imagine every phone call. It's like, okay, we'll give you this, 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 and you look at that. As I wrote them down, I'm just like, KD,
I actually didn't mind the Phoenix package. I did not mind that. Why? Because Kevin Durant made at least through the grapevine, he made his ideas known that would be a potential destination. I think Devin Booker is very similar to how he approaches the game with Kevin Durant. They go out there and they ball. They both are guys with chips on their shoulders.
Yeah.
Also, you return picks back, which, remember, y'all, owner Sy, he said that, when a lot of the stuff was hitting the fan, he was like, I would rather have people that would go out there and play no matter what their name is, what their status is, in the league, whether it's All-Star or for All-NBA. I'd rather have people that go out there and hustle and play.
Yep.
So it seems like he'd likely, if forced to, do a rebuild, get picks back, get a couple of solid players from Phoenix, and then KD gets to play in a place that is quite desirable. I'm not mad at that one.
well, Joe and Claire Sy, they want a team that's going to go out there and compete. But what I've heard from these two gentlemen is they would rather see Brooklyn go out and maybe make some other moves to keep sort of filling in around Kevin Durant.
You don't give him up.
Right?
He's
That's what you'd rather see?
so very dominant. He's still a 30-point scorer.
Right.
And also, people are going to pay to watch KD play.
So let's make Bobby do it. Bobby, what team could they potentially engage with here to get some more pieces?
For me, it's the Toronto Raptors here. I think certainly probably a potential seller when you look at as far as what they can offer. For me, it's OG Anunoby, right? When you look at him, he's got 3 years left on his contract. He's got a player option. He could become a free agent in 2024. That's your big wing. You started with Cam Thomas the last couple games. Joe Harris, right? That matches. Where Brooklyn has the assets here, right? We thought they didn't have him from the James Harden trade. It's all about draft picks. 2027 first from Philadelphia. They've got their own 2028. They've got a Dallas first here. So if it's 3 first-round picks for Anunoby here, and that for me, if I'm Brooklyn, that's appealing from Toronto's perspective. Can you go out and do that deal in the offseason? Enough. If I'm Toronto, this is who I would be looking for. Nick Claxton.
Oh, yes.
You want OG Anunoby and you want in draft picks? I want Nick Claxton back here. And for Brooklyn, that might be a little bit too rich.
Ooh, what do you think, Jalen? Do you like that better?
I like KD with the Nets.
So as long
as he's still under contract, that's what we can't overstate. KD has a couple of more years still left on his contract. And just think about it. If you're going to give up 3 first-round picks to get OG Anunoby, that tells you KD's value, which is why you can't move him.
If you're Kevin Durant and you are having these hard conversations and the Brooklyn Nets front office comes to you and says, okay, what if we went and got OG Anunoby and this is one of the packages that we're looking for, would that make you feel like, all right, let's go out and let's go to war with these folks?
Go and get another.
Go and get OG. The package that Bobby just laid out. If the front office came to KD and said, this is what we think we're going to do you feel good? Do you feel better about those hard conversations that Woj reported earlier?
And 3 first-round picks
Correct.
for OG.
Right.
I do it.
and send KD.
I would do whatever Kevin Durant
KD
wants.
saves,
Oh, yeah.
and you bring in OG.
Yeah, do things to help
Bring them over.
stay.
Make him happy.
And I heard you say that earlier about tough conversation. No, it ain't. And let me tell you why. He's still under contract.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So it's a tough conversation if you're trying to re-sign him like you were trying to re-sign Kyrie. He's still under contract, and KD's a baller. If he's healthy, he's gonna be in the lineup.
Yeah, and if this is a circumstance, you're like, hey, getting OG makes you happy, cool, bet. Then we're all happy because at the end of the day, you retain Kevin Durant.
Well, and KD being happy is synonymous with the Nets' happiness at the end of the day. That's what they're looking for. That's a tough conversation. It's not whether he stays or goes. It's whether he's happy with the decision.
I'll say one thing.
Yep.
KD's going to have to understand there's only so many guys that you can go out and get at the same time. So, yes, if you're stuck there, OG is not a bad piece
That's
to bring.
a great one, yeah. Bring in OG.
Well, we appreciate Bobby Marks firing up the trade machine for us. Of course, we're having all of these conversations because Kyrie Irving is now a Dallas Maverick. So next on NBA Today, we're going to take a deep dive. Welcome back to NBA Today. The Grizzlies, they have dropped 3 straight games. And after a confrontation between Ja Morant's friends and the Indiana Pacers traveling party, which was first reported in The Athletic, the league launched an investigation. And Ja Morant, he was asked about that today.
Any sort of response to what happened there after the Pacers game a little over a week ago?
Nah, all that stuff, pretty much false. It's been proven. That's all I got to say on it.
You said you felt like the Grizzlies are the most hated team.
We
Is
are.
that frustrating?
Nah, but we are. You see it every day on social media. Anything that, got something to do with the Memphis Grizzlies, is front line, national television, national people tweeting it. I honestly don't care, bro. I'm not, at this point in my life, man, I'm protecting my energy, bro. Not responding to nobody else, not entertaining nobody else. That's what they need, likes and clicks.
All right. So there's that. Jalen, you've been on some Detroit Pistons teams that I think was fair to say they were maybe the most hated teams in the NBA. What do you think of what we just heard from Ja?
I rooted for those teams, and you can't tell me when the Pistons walked off in '91 and didn't shake the Bulls' hand, you can't tell me I wasn't in that line. You cannot tell me. I thought that was great. But with that being said, the Memphis Grizzlies embody grit and grind, the remix, right? And what comes with that is a level of toughness, a level of physicality, and you're going to agitate the opponent. If Dylan Brooks doesn't play with an edge, he won't be in the league in 3 years. That's who he has to be. And they're agitators in the game. Now, you don't want it to go beyond that and some of the things that were alleged to have done. But this is who they are. This is who they're going to need to be with an attitude in order to achieve their goals.
So I mentioned the 3-game losing streak, and then we also have all of these conversations that are swirling as we approach the trade deadline. Just walk us through this, Brian, because in December, we weren't necessarily seeing this from the Grizzlies.
Yeah, I'm going to verify what Ja just said. I was talking to a coach, head coach, a couple of weeks ago, and he said, my team hates the Grizzlies, hates them. But he said, I kind of admire their confidence. I wish I could have some of that confidence on my team.
There you go.
But beyond that, beyond the swagger that they play with, this team is not good offensively. And they shoot the ball. They're one of the worst shooting teams in the league. During the stretch of the last 10 games, they've lost 8 of them. They're 29th in field goal percentage, 29th in three-point percentage.
Yep.
When they have to play in the half court, they don't have the shooting. So the question is, should they make a deal here in the next couple of days to get shooting? Now, what they would probably say is, we have Danny Green. Our midseason trade is adding Danny Green. And he may not look great in February, but by April and May, coming back from the ACL, he will be that shooter that we need. I question that. They have all of their draft picks. They have the 2024 pick from the Golden State Warriors. They have a lot of flexibility. I think if they are serious about this, they should seriously consider going out and finding another shooter in the next 2 days.
I've been beating that drum for 2 months. I think they're one guy away. I think they need one veteran, proven shooter at the back end of their rotation. It doesn't have to be a huge name. It doesn't have to be 3 draft picks for this guy. It could have just been a nice 6th or 7th guy who can shoot. I've mentioned Malik Beasley as a guy who I think would fit well coming off their bench. I don't get the sense from them that they feel the same urgency to upgrade the 7, 8, 9, 10 spots that we seem to. So maybe they stand pat, maybe they do nothing, maybe it is Danny Green, or maybe they're just going to save their chips for a bigger move, whatever that would be. But I think they're close enough, and the West is open enough that, they're young, they're kind of hated, and they've earned it. They talk more than anybody But I think they got a shot. And when you have a shot, even if you're young and it looks like you're going to have a shot for the next 8 years, 5 years, it's never promised to you.
All right, let's stick in the West here and get to the Phoenix Suns because Devin Booker, he's expected to return tonight against the Nets. He's been out since Christmas with a strained groin. The Suns, they went 10-11 in his absence, and the last time Booker played a full game, he dropped 58 points. So this will be a welcome return for Phoenix. Some news also for the Suns. ESPN's Baxter Holmes reported that Suns president and CEO Jason Rowley had resigned. Now, Rowley had been with the Suns since 2007 and been included in allegations of verbal abuse, retaliation, intimidation in the workplace. NBA Today will be back in 60 seconds. Area, because Klay Thompson, he made 12 three-pointers, scored 42 points as the Warriors beat the Thunder. That's the second most three-pointers in a game in his career, only trailing October 29th, 2018 against the Bulls when he made a cool 14, which is the current NBA record. And after the game, Klay was asked about whether or not he deserves to be an all-star this year.
To be honest, no. If our record was better, yes, but being 2 games above 500, I don't think I should be in Salt Lake City. But I will be an all-star before it's all said and done, again at least. So it's a goal of mine, and I'm going to show up when it matters most. I'll tell you that.
I thought Jordan was magnificent. One of the best games I've ever seen him play. He just was so under control. Jordan was controlling the game, just running the show and taking care of the ball. And then, of course, he started scoring in the second half when that presented itself. But he was just he was brilliant all night.
I mean, brilliant all night. The assists is really the key. And Klay looking like vintage Klay. This is what the Warriors need today without Steph Curry.
Absolutely. And I love this because what we saw, like you mentioned, was vintage. But we all know his strength. Klay Thompson has made over 1,400 catch and shoot three-pointers over the last 10 seasons. Wow. That's the most in the NBA with... Can y'all guess who's ranking second on that list?
Steph Curry.
Oh, is it on there? I feel like it was on there. Absolutely Steph Curry, who's just 185 threes behind Klay in that category. But also, y'all remember, Klay missed 2 full seasons, so imagine what that gap would be if he was healthy his whole career. But like Coach Kerr said, Klay and Poole, they really did their thing. So let's break it down. Roll me my tape producer. Who is it? Jaren, baby?
I love it.
Okay, producer Kathy, too, and Josh, everyone wants to get some love. Look at the timing that he just needs. He needs a half second, how difficult those threes are, Jalen, and he knocks it down. But I really love this because Jordan Poole had 12 assists, a career-high night. 3 seconds, you see the clock, and watch this time. You see him wide open on the corner, Jalen.
And you heard Coach Kerr talk about Jordan Poole playing the best game that he had. What he mean is he wasn't only focused on scoring. He was distributing.
But watch this vision right here. We're going to start with the inside. Okay, come on, Thunder. Hands up. Be active. It's a zone. Too late. Nice little easy bucket. But watch the perimeter vision, Jalen. Look what you see here.
After that last basket, I changed it. LeBron is going to get the record tonight. That terrible. But with that being said, Jordan Poole does a terrific job of occupying the defender.
Great screen right here.
Absolutely. And before you know it, catch and shoot from the corner.
You got to love it. But again, right, without Steph, it's very important that Jordan Poole, I've always said it before, I think it said it last week, Jordan Poole, he ups his game, but I like that he's not just focusing on the scoring, he's doing it by assisting. But shout out to Klay. Okay, Klay, we see
Absolutely. And Klay took it personal not being named to the All-Star team, but I like his self-awareness. Young people out there. Y'all heard his self-awareness? He wasn't talking about how many championships he already won. He wasn't talking about what he did in the past. He looked at the standings and was like, you know what? I didn't deserve it. And that's why Klay's so beloved. And that's why he's a future Hall of Famer.
And that's what he also said, guess what? I'm going to be an all-star again.
Right. And he's going to be. And when he's a guy who just has to play himself into that place because he doesn't want to be handed anything. He wants to go out there and prove it. But you mentioned the standings, Jalen. Steph Curry's injury, the Warriors, they still sit at 7th in the West. So back here with our entire panel. Zach, I want to start with you here. What do you expect? The Warriors historically, the last couple of years, they've really sat out the trade deadline. Do you expect that to be the case?
It could end up being the case, but it won't be for lack of trying. This is the most active I think the Warriors have been since this sort of dynastic run began all those years ago. They usually sit it out because they have the luxury of sitting it out. Now they don't. As Klay said, they're 2 games over 500. Steph is injured. They have championship ambitions. And I think they've poked around trying to see what they could get for some of their young guys. I know they're one of many, many teams who have been in contact with the Raptors. I think that was early in trade season just to sniff around what they could get. I don't know the particulars, but I would say the most likely scenario is a small deal or status quo, because what they really need is another big wing, right? The center position, I think, between Looney and Draymond is pretty well stocked. The guard rotation is very well stocked. Well, everyone needs a big wing. Those are the hardest guys to get. That's what they want. That's what they're probably going to target. But this is the most active they've been in a long time.
Most active they've been in a long time. I didn't introduce you because when I came back to the panel, because you need no introduction, Vince Carter. Do you think that the Warriors need to make a move? Do they have it internally?
He said it. I was going to say they need a big wing. Everybody wants that Swiss Army knife that can shoot and defend and play kind of like Wiggins played in the finals. And, he's not playing well right now, but I think, you have depth. That's when they're at their best, because you can rest Clay, you can rest Steph, and you just hit teams with waves of guys. And, I don't know where they're going to get it, but that's what they need, in my opinion.
What are they doing with James Wiseman? That's what we're trying to figure out. Are you the number 2 pick? Are you guys going to play him? He's spending the most time in the G League. Are you guys going to put him in the games? Like,
what can they get for?
Here's the thing.
That's the question.
It's the wrong time to trade James Wiseman. The value is too low. They do need to maybe make some roster management, because Anthony Lamb is a guy who's going to be potentially a rotation player for them in the playoffs. He's on a 2-way. Every dollar that the Warriors spend costs $7 in luxury tax. Start doing the math on that. So trading a player off and then moving Anthony Lamb into a roster spot might be an impactful move, even if it doesn't get on this show as a major story. But I will say this. I think the Warriors are headed for big, giant decisions. I just think they're going to happen in June and July. I don't think they're going to happen in February.
Just because you said it, it's going to be on the show. Just because you said that.
It was a reverse psychology.
Zach?
Well, it's interesting you say this is the wrong time to trade James Wiseman because his value is so low. And I get that. That valuation part of it, I get. He's also going to go into his 4th year next year. He's not a rookie anymore. He's barely played. And this is a team that's trying to win the title. And if they don't trade him, it's hard for them to trade like fungible salary. It's hard to find who they're trading for this upgrade. The one guy, if I were them, I would, come hell or high water, hold on to is Jonathan Kuminga. I'm not trading that guy unless I'm getting a star back. That's the one I'm hanging up the phone, because I could have major regret giving him up. But I get what you're saying about Wiseman, but when you say